but someone's got to sit there and bring the wero, the challenge. And so here it is. Okay, pastors groups. What about some sensible, united approaches to engage more winsomely and better in our cities and towns, to engage more, to be present and connected more where we're not seen, to be able to be involved in the conversations of our cities and towns, to be at the table when there's decision making, to be there to therefore have us and our people as a part of the solution. I want to suggest 3 ideas to you, Mike, if you just want to post those in one go. They are here. Number 1, engage in a way that connects you through one carefully considered initiative together. This was the challenge that Roy Crown from Hope Together UK brought to 8 pastors groups in 4 different provinces 2 months ago. In England in 2008, churches united in 1,500 separate areas with one simple challenge: find a need in your community and meet that need together in a way that's visible. And this is about being present and seen because we are currently not perceived to be present or seen. This is about PR, public relations. It's a part of our witness to be present and seen, to create the bridges in our community, to know the people in the seats of power, to be able to be engaged in the conversations of our communities. This can range from social activities, doing an activity in a park. Our church just ran an amazing light party, probably 3,000 people through our church, totally packed. It rained, so anyone out trick-or-treating gave up and came to our church. This could be something like Te Hahi, which you've probably heard about, being replicated through the country, a support service to the victims of crime on the moment. With a phone to a couple of people in a church, 2 a.m, Janice has been beaten up by her man. She's in a safe house with 3 kids, no nappies, no clothes to put them into, and no food. 2 volunteers turn up. G'day, Janice, how can we help? Get stuff from the church food bank, from the Salvation Army op shop, from whatever it is. Another example would be Keith Harrington's Invercargill Community Services, and there's a URL there to a blog. I've just written on it. He has, with just one other church, mobilised 250 volunteers, 3rd year in a row, 18 community service projects, which is just remarkable, on one Sunday morning, giving up a church service, engaged with iwi, with council, with 3 schools, numerous charities, 2 environmental trusts, 250 people deployed in teams with 4 hours to achieve something. Blows the mind of all the other charities. How do you find those volunteers? Connecting with 18 different community groups, council, and the whole community is like, wow, the churches are amazing. And it's only 2 churches involved at this point. And it's only one day of busyness with a month of preparation, with 8 ICs in charges for the 18 different things. So have a read of what he's done. Find one thing to do that brings reputation and connection, but the way you do it is by serving the community or meeting a need. Second challenge, I'll have to scroll down to see it in the chat. Work out how you could tell your own story better. Our churches are the biggest charity organisation separate to tax money. We volunteer and donate at a much higher rate than the general public do. Statistically, that can be evidenced. More negative stories are told about us in the public square than positive. There are arguably 1,000 to 10,000 positive stories for every negative story that is told. I want to present to you a national strategy that, like Hope Project, and the way it can help us achieve the 4 goals I mentioned earlier, we can have something national as a coat hanger that helps us achieve some significant things in our cities that will not be achieved in 95+% of our cities and towns otherwise. And yet that only exist and happen if the local pastors group say, we want to be more engaged in our own community. Help Project is about working out how you could tell your own story in your community to be present and known. It's only possible, I think, as a nationally coordinated effort. The heart there explains it. It's about 1 survey for 4 outcomes. Imagine if you could have a web page at which the help on offer from your churches and associated trusts was listed with a search engine so that it could be found. Currently, your pastors probably don't even know what each other does. Now your churches know what each other does, and when I suddenly have a need, someone turns up at the door, does your church help with drug rehab? Absolutely we do. And I call Laurie, because he's part of my church, because I'm part of the Church of Tauranga, but he's at the Salvation Army and I'm at the C3. We can function as one man and one spirit for the faith of the gospel. Secondly, we can take that to social media and promote it with $20 per week, telling 2 stories per week. It's pretty simple. We would list more than 500 charitable efforts from our churches in Tauranga easily. 1 story from each. We've got 5 years of content, 2 stories per week. Really easily done. Suddenly in social media, targeting only our own city, our story is being heard and told. Thirdly, we bring reports that are strategic to the pastors group to make sure they know what each other is doing and to highlight areas for discussion, for potential collaboration or for potential strengthening. Even by nature of being aware, every work will lift and be helped. Fourthly, we can produce formal reports in partnership with an organization internationally called Neighbour, who've been doing this for a decade, but they only do the fourth component, not the prior three. And with the same survey, no extra work, produce a formal impact audit that can be taken to local government, national government, social services, iwi, and others to reflect the dollar value add of the services of churches when you take into account buildings and volunteer time at the minimum wage and these sorts of things. And what this serves to do is it suddenly puts the churches on the radar, realizing that Tauranga City has 20,000 church attenders delivering, and we haven't done this here yet, delivering what? $15 million worth of community services to the city in these 9 areas. And the council and the government go, well, 4 of those are our priorities for funding. What, you deliver those results for that much money? How could we partner together? So this begins to open the doors, and it puts the churches on the radar of media and of the power brokers of our cities and brings us into the conversation. We have the technologies essentially set up. We did not have the funding and pulled the plug on launching this nationally this year. This sits as a resource available to churches. Any cost to you as churches together would be probably 10% of what it would cost you to set this up yourself. Do it your own way, create your own list of services, your own thing if you want, but this is a strategic offer that can produce it, you own it, and there can be a web page with your city and your things being promoted and strategies with marketing advice on communication in the public square, etc. offered. Third thing, to note that's not a lot of work, that's one survey and someone to do some coordination. But you've got to get that survey done, and that takes work because it's not a 5-question survey. It's about a 50-question survey per item for a reason, because it's highly planned and strategized to deliver results. It's about results, not just convenience. The third and final thing is, how do you position your people to engage in their community beyond your influence and oversight? In other words, it's not about us as pastors together in a city being so awesome and look at what we do. We can do some things, but we're busy running churches. This has to be simple. Number 2 there is phenomenally simple. Number 1 there takes 1 month of focus and 1 day of effort, actual hands-on effort. These are simple strategies for broad reach. Number 3 is simpler than that. Number 3, like equipping your members for outreach, is about taking a vision to your members. And I want you to catch the strategy of this. The vision is, and if all your churches promoted it, you could achieve something. The next prayer thing we want in our city is weekly prayer meetings in every workplace and every school. Why don't we do that? I'll tell you why. Because it doesn't sit under the control, oversight, and discipline of a local pastor. And because it's not owned by an individual local church, we never think to encourage it. But from a strategic perspective, if you have, your 50 members in workplaces, and I've got my 50 and someone's got their 100, there's no denomination, there's no C3 City Church in the workplace. There's only Christians. Strategy for mission is this simple. Connect with other Christians, pray, and say, God, what could we do? So what would happen if in every school, the few Christian teachers that were there connected, met every week for prayer? If they start work at 7:30, meet at 6:45, bring your own coffee, brief discussion and prayer. That prayer would catalyze vision because the Holy Spirit will give them vision of things to do. And the prayer could also affect, obviously, the spiritual environment and create opportunity in and by itself. Imagine that in the engineering shop. Imagine that in the council. What you are doing is positioning your members to pray, in which case they begin to see the needs of the city, separate to just the community things you do. And it doesn't take away from individual churches. They can still help with your community, this, that, and the other you do as a congregation. But they spend 40 hours a week at least at work. They spend 80 hours a week at their work and in the community, separate to the programs of your church. This is about empowering our members to unite. There's only one church in my city. It's called the Church of Tauranga, right? It's I've
lost the connection here. Oh no, it's come back.
Body needs empowering for wider mission. So altogether.co.nz/pastors groups, we keep this to one single page for this whole area of our work. On the right hand there, where it says pastors group resources, you will see the quarterly update in that graphic. The latest quarterly update for Pastors Group conveners is there. Jesus said in Matthew 5:14, and we'll finish with this and pray. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. I point out that our light is constrained by the fact that we're lots of individual little embers in our congregations, and there could be a synergy where we come together and produce a flame that's brighter. It's not everything. It's one part of what we do, but it's an important part. Instead, they put the light on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. And what I want to emphasize is the word see. We're being shut out of the public conversation. We are being shut out of the sight of the public by public media, sort of government policy, by education narrative. The Christian church is being intentionally sidelined. We have to find a way to let our light shine. Do we need to do more good works? I tell you what, we're already doing them. The story isn't being told. What we're lacking is the communication skills together to know how to engage with the city and with the nation. And I suggest to you that the kinds of things presented are about filling that gap that will not be filled by individual congregations, that can never be filled by denominational structures, that can only be fulfilled by vision for the united church at the city and national levels collaborating together. It is only one small part of all we do as churches. It's not the most important thing. Equipping the individual is, but it's a part of the picture. And I encourage and offer this to you for consideration. Any comments, and we will close with prayer because we're hitting our